Another protest is planned today over the screening of a documentary about Russian soldiers at TIFF. CB24's Kayla Williams joins us live with the latest on this and reaction. Kayla.
Yeah, that's right. Good morning, Jamie. So we're talking about this upcoming film. It's titled Russians at War, and it was scheduled to debut here at the Toronto International Film Festival this afternoon at 2:30 p.m., but that will not be happening. And for more on this story and reaction from those who had a part in creating this film, I'd like to bring in the Russians at War film producers, Cornelia Principe, as well as Sally Blake. Thank you for your time this morning. And initially, I'll start off with getting your reaction to the news that TIFF has decided to no longer premiere this film. Of course, they cited significant threats to festival operations and public safety.
Yeah, well, obviously we're very sad and frustrated that this has happened, but we trust TIFF's decision. Apparently, the threats were very elevated, so public safety is important. You know, most of the protesters. We believe in the right to protest. Absolutely, and most of the protesters are peaceful. And most of the protesters, unfortunately, haven't seen the film. And for those who have, there is a strong consensus that it is a powerful indictment of war and that the film should be seen.
Now, for those who may not know essentially the premise of the film, it is a first-person documentary by Russian-Canadian filmmaker Anastasia Trofimova. And as we noted, it has spurred controversy as well as outrage and protest. Now, the reason being is that some are calling it Russian propaganda. Obviously, from your perspective, you were saying it is not that. So what would you say it is, and why should Canadians watch this film?
Well, the people calling it Russian propaganda are people who haven't actually seen the film. Mm-hmm. And so that's the first point. The second point is Anastasia has been making films in war zones for years now. She's filmed in Syria, Kosovo, Congo, places that a lot of people, a lot of journalists wouldn't go to, much less people. And then she found a war in her backyard in Russia when Russia invaded Ukraine. And so we were filming actually for about a year before she made it to the front. So it wasn't necessarily the intention at the beginning. The intention was to make a film about how people in Russia were reacting to the war. And we were focusing actually on anti-war protesters. And then she met a soldier in Elizabeth Front. And the irony is that we still made an anti-war film, but with soldiers, because if you actually see the film, most of the soldiers are against the war. They want it to end.
Well, so that's actually a great point, because, of course, this film, it sort of goes into like the deeper connotation of there are soldiers on the front lines that are essentially questioning why they are in fact there and that they are wrestling with these moral questions. And so if you could kind of give us a little bit more on that, you know, we're talking about people that are losing their lives on both sides of this war.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Anastasia spent 7 months with this particular battalion. It's unprecedented, the access that she did get to them, and we see a progression in the soldiers' views over time. They become very disillusioned. A lot of them are not paid. Of course, there's a lot of loss of life. A lot of them question the war. A lot of them question their role in the war. Mm-hmm. And just to be clear, a film of this nature puts Anastasia at great risk of criminal prosecution in Russia itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Cornelia, film. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to say this is not a film that the Russian authorities would want people to see. So to call it Russian propaganda is ludicrous in that context, right? They wouldn't want Russians to see this film because it doesn't, first of all, it doesn't make the army look good, but it also counters this idea that Russian army is, you know, well-trained, out there as heroes, and that they never die. And that's the opposite of what we found and what's in the film.
Mm-hmm. Well, there is humanity on both sides, of course, naturally. But before I let you go, one last question. You know, of course, as we noted, that there are, of course, certainly lots of people that are against this film, that are protesting, obviously, which has cited the film to not go forward with the premiere this afternoon. So for those who might be watching right now and they're listening to this interview, for those who haven't seen the film and might even say they refuse to see it, Why should they see it then?
Well, I think it comes down to why we made the film is we wanted to contribute to the end of this war, that to see people in war as human beings can contribute to a better understanding and hopefully to a resolution of this war somehow. I mean, we're not politicians, we're not up there, but if this gets, and we do want this film released in Russia, maybe the tide will turn inside Russia in terms of support for the war. Or maybe the support's already waning, but we don't know. On the other side, I think it's important for people to recognize that, like in all wars, and as also in Russia, that these people don't want to be there. The soldiers do not want to kill anyone. The soldiers don't want to die. They want to go home. They want the Ukrainians to go home. They want this war to be over. And I think it is a window into something that we have not seen. We've seen a lot of films of Ukraine, incredible films, 20 Days in Mariupol, beautiful film. We haven't seen anything on the Russian side. And it's important for us to understand what's going on the other side in order for this to find some resolution, to find an end to this. Mm-hmm. The killing has to stop.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Cornelia and Sally, I thank you both for your time, producers of this film, Russians at War. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
No problem. And again, as I noted, Jamie, the original release of this film was scheduled to take place this afternoon at 2:30 at Scotiabank Theatre here in downtown Toronto. That will not be happening anymore, as TIFF confirmed that they will not be releasing this film moving forward. As far as if it will have a later date, we don't know that just yet, but that is word coming down from TIFF yesterday, actually. So we'll hand it back over to you for now.
Thanks for that story, Kayla.